Emblem, an amazing and complex series of games with a long and storied history. A long and storied history that I have no history with whatsoever. Growing up, the most I knew about Fire Emblem was that Marth was a character in Super Smash Bros. Melee. That is, until near the end of 2019 when YouTuber Shady Penguin started his Let's Play of Fire Emblem Three Houses on his channel. I dismissed it at first, it wasn't one of my interests, but around the 60 episode mark I decided to give it a chance, since I figured that a game that lasts that long might have some merit. 10 episodes in, I already knew that I was going to buy and play the game myself. For those unfamiliar with Fire Emblem Three Houses, to put it simply, it's a fantasy strategy game akin to that of Pokemon Conquest, but instead of a Japanese aesthetic, it's more based off medieval Europe. And there's more plot in between each battle and more deep and complex characters. The real hook is based off an early game decision that the player character, Byleth, makes so that you get to choose what story you want and who you side with. That's the main concept. The gameplay is what most fans of the series will be going to the game for, but having compelling characters doesn't hurt in order to get new people hooked in. My first go around with Three Houses, I played the Blue Lions route, since Shady had played the same routes, and I thought it might be easier to play a route that I am slightly familiar with. I also played on a hard difficulty for the first time, because watching Shady play hard mode and not having too much trouble with it made me think that I could handle it. I couldn't handle it. It was when I got to the Red Canyon paralog with all the demonic beasts that I truly realized how fucked I was. Thus began my journey to make myself over-level to a point where I wasn't struggling anymore. I was successful, but boy was it a stressful time! One of the aspects of Three Houses that I was really excited about was the endgame shipping mechanic, but I didn't understand how support worked in this first playthrough, so even though I wanted Annette and Felix to be together, because their supports are adorable, and I wanted to know what they'd do after the war, only then for Sylvain to come in and say, hey, we're always going to be together, right? And Felix couldn't resist that pretty face and buttery voice. The only ships that actually ended up coming into fruition were Ash and Petra, because that was some good shit, and Violet and Linhardt, because I like that gay shit. Now, playing through the Blue Lions route, I got an interest in Hubert and Edelgard from the Black Eagle side of things, so I decided to play that shit next. On normal, because fuck playing normal the first time through. Everything was fine, I loved the story, I was invested in the characters, I was romancing Hubert. But any person who's played Fire Emblem Three Houses at this point knows that the Black Eagles route has some secrets. That being that it branches off into two routes. But only if you talk to Edelgard at a certain time after a certain event to activate a certain cutscene in order to activate a certain choice that you can make later on in order to play the certain route that I had wanted to play in the first place. So yeah, my first Black Eagles route, I ended up playing the church route instead, because the game decided that to play Edelgard's route, the one I'm assuming everyone who chose Black Eagle's house wanted to play, had to be kept secret only for the most dedicated of players who talked to every character every month in order to unlock every secret. And I was trying to romance Hubert! So when suddenly you are forced to fight against Edelgard, Hubert joins her, and all my progress with him was destroyed and I had to scramble to find a new love interest. The only thing that made the church route worth it after such betrayal was the lore dumps and being able to kill Rhea in the end. And they showed Twain and Inferno together. Their ending was cute. Of course, I went and played Black Eagles again after this, but it was a slog getting through the school portion. I had just played that, and it's the same stuff again. Only now I'm trying to push through it in order to get to the point where I can play the routes I wanted to play all along. And it's obvious not much effort was put into this route. There's a time skip a little past the halfway point in the game, and for all the other routes there is a fully animated and choreographed cutscene with the Imperial army attacking Garreg Mach, and Rhea turning into a dragon for the first time and fighting off demonic beasts as the main character falls off a cliff and is presumed dead by the rest of the country. In the Black Eagles route, there is no such thing. You get a still image of Rhea transforming, and some dialogue from Edelgard and Hubert, and then cut to black as, apparently, Violet somehow got covered by rocks? Or did they fall off the cliff again? It's not clear at all since we are not able to see any of it. It was worth it all in the end, though. I got to hear some more good lore bits. I finally got my happy ending with Hubert, my love. And the final battle of the routes is against Rhea, who, over the course of the routes, has shown her true colors, that being an ancient dragon that cares not for humanity, only her own selfish desires. And you get to murder her, which is a fun time. Due to the fiasco that was the trickery of the church route, I ended up playing the Golden Deer route last. And at this point, while I was still having fun, I was also burned out. Waiting through the Black Eagle school portion twice did not help matters. What did help matters was finding out that there were additional scenes in the school portion for Golden Deer that go into finding out the lore and discovering the many secrets of the church. The Golden Deer route is one big pile of mysteries, so my investment in the story was of no issue whatsoever. I did notice a lot of overlapping scenes with the church route after the time skip, like renaming the army and going to destroy Shambhala. Watching the same cutscene where Rhea is destroying the missiles of light in her dragon form made me think that the final battle was going to be killing Rhea again. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing that again. But it turns out the final boss of this route is an ancient evil brought up in the lore dumps of all other routes, but for some reason only awakened in this route to spice things up. Of course, once this was done, I played the DLC with the Ashen Wolves and had a blast. At this point, there's just one thing I'd want to add to the game. More support conversations. Seriously, there are characters that never interact in game that I would love to see talk to one another. You can recruit students from other houses to join yours in the first part of the game, and they will join you after the time skip as well. Meaning that Ash, a sweet boy adopted and given the opportunity of a lifetime only for his adopted father to be killed when he tried to rebel against the church, will join Edelgard's side if you are there as well. So, why can't he talk to Hubert or Edelgard? Because then any other routes you couldn't get the full story with their supports due to the story splitting them up? Well, that didn't seem to be an issue with the Black Eagles route splitting off in two and making all of Edelgard and Hubert's support split off. Plus, it would just mean adding more replay value in order to unlock those support conversations. This is even more apparent in the Ashen Wolves. Even though in the DLC, Ash and Yuri know each other, and even in the main game when you are playing a route where Ash needs to be spared to be recruited again, they have special dialogue, they don't have any supports together. And it doesn't make sense to me that so much stock would be placed in their similarities and relationship only for nothing to come of it. And Happy! Her supports could have so much potential! She's from someplace far away and is unable to return for certain reasons. This also describes Petra! Imagine a conversation between the two of them. The Duke could never truly return to his home, since it was torn and burned asunder. Cyril has a homeland, but has no desire to return there. Now imagine the two of them talking to Happy! Don't those sound like amazing small plot threads to follow through the support conversations? Conversation between Raphael and Balthus sounds like a fun time. Same with Caspar and Balthus. And Constance, she just needs some more supports. She only has one support outside of the Black Eagle's house, and that's it. It's just, I like her supports, but I want to see her in different situations. Like, how does the hard-working but high and mighty Constance deal with Leonie, a scrappy girl with a penchant for saving money even at the cost of material goods? She's always looking for someone to be in her employ and give her praise. Ash could fit the bill, even if he isn't on board with it at first. She'd probably encourage Ignace to pursue painting and tell him to get good enough to paint her in her full glory. How would Sylvain handle the differing personalities she has in the shade and in the sun? How would he try to woo her? I don't even have time to cover all the supports I would like from the non-DLC characters. I want it so badly. I would pay good money for this shit. That was a tangent. Final thoughts as a first-time player of a Fire Emblem game. If I were to score it fairly, I'd say it would be an 8 out of 10. Not perfect, but very enjoyable and has a good shelf life. However, because of my own personal experience with the routes fucking me over, I'm going to have to score it as 6.5 out of 10. There was too much heartache and too many headaches to put up with for me to wholeheartedly give it a score higher than that. I do wonder what's next for the series, and I am curious about older games in the franchise. If there's a Fire Emblem game for Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, or 3DS that you think I might enjoy, please leave a comment below. I want to dive into the rabbit hole just enough that it won't cost me a fortune to do so.